Hello, my friends. I'm Lil Soprennant. I'm a physician life coach. This podcast is about loving your life, creating a life you love as a doctor. And today I want to talk more about friends. So I've talked a little bit about how to start making friends as an adult. First off is don't think it's hard to make friends as an adult. That's not helping you. But today I actually want to talk a little bit about doctor friends versus non-doctor friends, our thoughts around that, sort of my perspective. So I think this is an interesting question. I hear from physicians, and mostly women physicians. That's pretty much who's talking about making friends, to me anyway. And sometimes I hear that it's much easier to be friends with other physicians because they get you. They're the only people that get your experience. Other people, I've even heard from people that, non-physicians may sort of want to use your medical advice, and there's some hesitation there, or they're intimidated by us. And some of that I think can be true, but and I do think there's a really special place for women physicians to be friends with each other. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, is making friends with other women physicians. Because you're right. If you have the thought that other women physicians get your experience, you're absolutely right. If you're, they've been through residency, even if it's not the same specialty, they've been through med school, they've been through the trials and tribulations, they understand the stress of making difficult decisions with a patient, sort of the life and death nature of what we do oftentimes. So women physicians are a great thing to have as friends. And I have many physician friends. I love my physician friends, but I also want to make a case for making non-doctor friends. And part of the reason is I think when we limit ourselves to just physician friends, we really continue to put layers of paint on the identity that we have, that we're a doctor. And that, for many of us, takes up a lot of space, our physician identity. And that's great. It's a big commitment. It is a big part of who we are and what we do. But I really think a full, rich life includes things that are not our medical work. So it includes our families, and if we have children, our romantic partners, our hobbies outside of medicine, who we are, from before we were doctors. I really think that a full, rich life includes lots of non-doctor things, and therefore non-doctor friends. So I want to tell you guys a story. This is my most stalkery friend story. And so first, even a story before a story. And I'll put a link in the show notes. So I wanted to go on a little tangent. Before my stalker story, I was watching a clip on YouTube of Jane Fonda being interviewed with Lily Tomlin and Sally Field. And I guess Lily Tomlin is a little bit of recluse and doesn't get out much, but basically Jane Fonda was just like, yeah, I stalked you. I persisted. I made it happen. You basically had no choice but to be my friend. And I totally love that, because that's sort of my philosophy. I'm willing to be the stalker, not in like actual stalker terms, but like I'm willing to put in the work. I'm willing to face rejection. Like I'm willing to do the things to capture a friend and get a friendship going. And I talked about that in a previous podcast on friendship. But I do want to tell, a non-doctor stalker story. And it's going to highlight again some of the steps to friendship. Now, this one was pretty elaborate because, like, I was like, this person is going to be my good friend. I can just tell. So I'm a big reader. I love books. I love to talk about books. And I hold the belief that, especially with fiction books, when you look at someone's library, or they tell you the sort of books they read, and if they're the sort of books you read and you get a little bit in that, that's a real shortcut to understanding somebody. So I went to this used bookstore. This is about 10 plus years ago. And I was fairly new in town, so I needed some friends. And I go in this bookstore, and the woman behind the counter is this very lovely, cute, short blonde woman who I thought was about 10 years younger than me. Turns out she's older than me, and she just looks good. Damn it. But anyway, so I'm looking at, and it turns out through a little bit of conversation that she's the owner of the bookstore. So I'm like, okay, like a lot of filters there. Like, she's a reader, she's a business owner. And I'm looking around at the bookstore. It's a used bookstore, but still, there's things on display. I'm like checking all this out. The things that are on display are the sorts of books that I like. And there's an author named Tom Perrotta, and sort of literary fiction. And there was like the newest Tom Perrotta book out on display. I had not read it. And I'm like, oh, have you read this? And I'm just making conversation because I can just tell already that maybe this person like might be a friend. And this was a small town, so it's not quite as creepy as it seems. Like, you got to like be on it in a small town. So anyway, she's like, yes, I have read it. I'm going to say I didn't love it. So I was appreciated. She was like willing to tell me the truth that she thought about it. She's like, but you might like it. It's good. So I bought it. It's like $6 or whatever. And like figured out her name. And I was like, ooh, really, like this person might be a friend. So then it turned out that my mother-in-law at the time knew who this was, because like, oh, I went in this bookstore, and, great selection of books. And I met this woman. She's like, oh, I know who that is. I sing in the choir at the church, 20 minutes away with her mother. And then, she filled me in on some details of this person. Her name's Leah. It's not, anyway. So she's like, yes, this, and this. And I'm like even more intrigued. Well, it turns out, like, I can say this in retrospect with 10 years of friendship, Leah is a very introverted, as you might guess, as the owner of a bookstore. So when you have your eye on an introvert friend, you just really need to know up front that you're going to have to do all the work. And that's okay. Like, doesn't bother me a bit, but I want you to be thinking about this when you're trying to make friends with someone, you're trying to increase the connection. The more quiet and introverted they are, I don't mean that you have to come on strong and overwhelm them. I just mean you really have to take that into account in your willingness to make the gestures, to come back and circle back, and really not take it personally that this person across from you on the counter doesn't spring to life when you make any sort of friendly gesture and say, oh my God, yes, you're the one. I want to be with you. I'm kidding. But I do want to make that point. If you're trying to make a friend and you sense that they're fairly introverted and quiet, take that into account. Like, it may take a little bit longer. It may take some more subtlety. So I can't remember exactly the next step because it's been more than 10 years. But basically, I was like, oh, this is like going to be a thing. And I think I friended her on Facebook, but she's not very active on Facebook. Saw her again at the store and was like, oh, are you in a book club? Was looking for a book club. No, not in a book club. She's like, I haven't found, a great one. When you're a snobby reader, sometimes it's hard to find a good book club. So she's not in a book club. And I get the sense that she's sort of a snobby reader too. So anyway, the short of this very long story is I basically started a book club. Mostly, I mean, I wanted to make friends with other people too, and I did. It was like a very high yield friend endeavor. And we got to talk about books. But really, a large part of it, and it was not like this was subconscious. I knew, I was like, I want to be friends with Leah. I think she'll come to a book club. So I'm going to start a book club. So I literally started a book club at my house with the intention to get this person a friend. And it worked. So she came to the first one. And it was a great, it was actually a really good book club. I picked a winner on the book. A lot is like perfect literary fiction sort of thing. But it's not like I was done at that point. This is a shy woman. This is a reader. This is a like introvert. So then I gotta keep having book clubs. So, and I also was willing to do all that. I was willing to, it's my book club to start with. So I'm willing to host all the things, willing to kind of do all the work for that. And that's the theme of these friendship posts is be willing to do the work up front. So I'm willing to do the work of the book club because I want a book club. I want some friends. I want some book friends. I want Leah as my friend. So get the book club going. And we did. We slowly became friends. I don't remember, how we then, all the next steps, but went out to dinner with her and her husband, with me and my husband at the time. And she became one of my very best friends in this whole wide world. And it was all worth it. So I just want to message you, like, you can put in the work. It's worth it. And you can't be offended when other people aren't doing the work to make friends with you. Many of them have the thought that I've told you not to think, which is that it's hard to make friends, or they're shy and they're not willing to do it. So she's a non-doctor friend. Super interestingly, years later, and we were like super close friends. Years later, she's moved away. So we're now long distance friends, which kind of sucks. But she actually went back to nursing school at the age of 50. And now she's a floor nurse. So now we actually are medical friends too, which is totally crazy because she was non-medical, like completely non-medical. And like she was one, I wouldn't have talked with her about the hospital, or I did talk a little bit. And I think she found me to be sort of cold-natured and cynical, which really I'm not. It's just, if you work in the hospital a lot, like, dealing with people is not all sunshine and roses. So anyway, my good non-doctor friend, and she's still not a doctor, but now she's medical, same thing. So my good non-doctor friend went back to nursing school. Now she's a floor nurse, like all through COVID and everything. And she is exactly the same sort of a little bit cold-blooded, cynical as me. And I find it delightful and hilarious and like such a crazy full circle. So, but back to the whole point of the thing is non-doctor friends give us a place to be another part of ourselves, to be a reader, to be a book club participant, to be a runner if we're a runner, to be a gardener, to be a dancer, whatever the thing is, like having friends that are non-medical that share some other interests of ours or just share a sense of humor or whatever, I really think enriches our lives. And it's worth sort of whatever discomfort, getting over sort of the stories of, people don't understand what we go through as a doctor. It's worth getting over that stuff for yourself to make these other friends so that your life is richer, your concept of yourself is bigger. And that's it. So that's my stalker story. We're also going to link to the Jane Fonda stalker story because now I feel like obviously I'm cool because Jane Fonda's cool. So that's what I got for you today. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.